Welcome to season 2 of Talkin' Tech Hoops. We're going to try to do this more regularly as opposed to last year where we had 3 episodes, but that's fine. This is going to be a weekly show now. If you're interested in Georgia Tech basketball, I say subscribe down below. My name is Morgan, also known as Judician. This is my good friend Thomas. He was my co-host last season for this. We are in a new era of Georgia Tech basketball. At the end of last season, Josh Pastner was let go, and Damon Stoudemire, a former assistant of the Boston Celtics, former Arizona point guard, former Toronto Raptors point guard, was hired in his place. What was your opinion on the hire initially, not since what we've known now, but when it initially was hired in March?
I didn't really know what to think. I was excited, obviously. We saw him coach at Pacific for a little bit, but the landscape of college basketball has completely changed since then with the transfer portal and NIL deals and stuff like that. So I was excited for something fresh.
What, not the Princeton
I
every minute of the game?
Yeah, something different, something more I guess current with the way a more NBA style of basketball, which is what I thought we
Yeah.
were going to get with Stoudemire.
Yeah. And it's J Bat is taking what he saw at Alabama and bringing it over to Tech. You want the style of of football being built, just like work hard. It's Saban. There's a lot of respect for him. It's whether you think of how much of it is on the talent he recruits or the coaching he builds of you work hard, you play hard, and that's kind of what J Bat was kind of wanting to bring to Tech. And it seemed like he said he had that list of names in case Pastner didn't work out, which obviously it didn't because we're here talking about it today. But he had that list of names, and David Stoudemire was apparently very high on that list. And obviously, yeah, as you said, going from when he was coaching at Pacific to going back to the NBA, college basketball in just those 2 years has changed dramatically with the transfer portal and just the way, and NIL money as well. He didn't have that over at Pacific, no matter how much money they were going to get at Pacific. But the whole of that has changed, and I think his response to it was honestly perfect when he was asked about how he's going to adapt to that. Is he said NIL money's kind of like a salary cap. You have a certain amount of money to work with, and that's how you can basically recruit players to come play for you if that's what they're caring about. In terms of the transfer portal, I think the only reason he used the transfer portal as much as he did this year was just because nobody was on the roster, and at that late in the season, you can't really recruit anybody. He still got He got 3 recruits. He got Nathan George, Ibrahim Asako, and Baye Ndogo, who he stole from Rutgers because of the Carl Hobbs hire. So what are your thoughts on who Stoudemire has brought in terms of the transfer portal and the recruits, and obviously next year's recruits that we have with Jaden Mustaff and Cole Kirouac, I believe is his name. He's a 6'10 center from around here.
Really excited about Mustaff. I think he's the first top 50 guy Tech has signed since Iman Shumpert came, which
Yeah.
was probably, 10, 12 years ago now?
The only player I think that could rival that in term since Iman Shumpert was Robert Carter, but he didn't do a whole lot for Tech anyway. So I think
And,
but
and
Jaden
I think,
Mustaff is huge because OTE is becoming more viable as we've seen with the Thompson twins. But
yeah, I think Michael DeVoe may have been a top 100 guy under Pastner, but
yeah,
we haven't had any high profile recruits.
in a long
Um,
time.
yeah, come through in a long time, and that's really exciting to see. I think just Stoudemire's name.
Hmm.
He's a household name to some of these guys. You know, he played in the NBA, coached in the NBA, and I think that has a lot of appeal to these young people. In the past, I don't think Tech was a place you went, especially under Pastner, if you wanted to make the NBA. Tech is a place you go to go get your degree from Georgia Tech, and if you happen to make the NBA, you happen to make it.
Yeah, and I
But I
think
think that's something Stoudemire is trying to change, which
no,
I'm really looking
absolutely.
forward to.
Because it's like if you look at the pro Georgia Tech players that there are right now, in just the NBA at least, there's what Jose Alvarado and Josh Okogie, and that's pretty much it. Maybe Thaddeus Young is still left in the league, but in terms of players that we're sending to the league, it's not a whole lot. Jose Alvarado had to grit and grind his way. Josh Okogie was kind of a surprise, if everybody's being honest. We knew he was talented, but a first round talent, I don't think anybody knew. Um, but in terms of the recruiting, yeah, I think Michael DeVoe was the highest recruit that Pastner ever got. Maybe Jose Alvarado because he was a 4-star, I believe. But in terms of that, Pastner didn't do a whole bunch of top recruiting, and the best guy that he sent to the league wasn't even his own recruit, and it was with Brian Gregory. But these new transfers, as we've seen in these first 2 games, are quite interesting, just top to bottom of the players he recruited. Obviously, the first one that I said is the guy that I've interviewed, Tyjon Claude, who has had an incredible impact. But out of the transfers that you have seen, who has been your favorite? Not named Tyjon Claude, because I know we've talked, and Tyjon Claude has been a favorite.
I think Kawasi Reeves is going to be really, really good. He's a guy that can get you, 10, 12, 14 points a night. He's going to pull down 6 rebounds. He's going to play good defense. And through the first 2 games, the first 2 regular season games and the exhibition with Clark Atlanta, it looks like he's shooting the ball better than he was at Florida, which is good to see. It's a small sample size still, and there's still a lot to see with how he develops under Stoudemire and in a new situation, but it's really exciting to see him so far.
Oh, I 100% agree. I said that everything on film for Kawasi at Florida everything looks really good. It's just, can he get the efficiency down? And it seems like he's playing much more confidently, at least under Stoudemire's system, and maybe that's the amount of space that Stoudemire is creating. It's even guys, when we have Tafari Kapare, who's not a fantastic shooter, he has them spaced out so the floor can still be spaced whether or not the defense has moved. But he's wanting to space it out, and I think having that much space, Kawasi's making great decisions in terms of when to shoot it, when to take it off the dribble. Another guy he hasn't really popped out a whole lot on the stat sheet besides the Clark Atlanta scrimmage, but one of my favorites besides those 2, besides Kawasi and hold on, I got a new audio detective. See, don't switch. Besides those 2 is Amari Abram. He's not a whole lot of stat sheet, but his ball handling and his defense has been really poised. And his shooting, whether he's taken a whole lot of shots or not, has really been there. And he, besides, I'd say tonight with the Howard game, where the offense just wasn't fantastic, but we'll talk about that later, that he still can create his own shot, and he's not a liability to leave out there if he's not.
Yeah, no, it's exciting to see. I think in the past several years, really the only one I felt comfortable with the ball in his hands, down the stretch was Sturdivant, and I think you've got 2 or 3 guys that can do that this year. I feel confident when the ball's in Kelly's hands or when it's in Sturdivant's hands and when in Abrams' hands, and it gives you more options. I feel like in the past there was only a guy, maybe a guy and a half, where you could trust him to handle the ball and not turn it over, which is really important, and I think it killed Tech in the past too.
Yeah, it was with all of with Pastner's teams. It's obvious, last year or 2 years ago, I believe, with DeVoe. Maybe it was last year. I don't even remember at this point. DeVoe has just kind of been a flash now. It was 2 years ago. Now that I'm remembering it. But even so, when DeVoe was the ball handler, you knew he wasn't going to really be passing a whole lot. He's going to get you 17, 18, 20 points a night, but he wasn't going to create for your offense. And in an offense that didn't have much creation, it wasn't needed. But you had pretty much just him and Sturdivant, and that's the only guys you wanted handling the ball. Now, obviously, as you said, you have Amari Abram. I'm fine with Kawasi Reeves dribbling the ball. Amari Abrams, great at handling it. I'm not nervous with Miles Kelly. He's very poised with his ball handling. And even when with one guy who's become our favorite with the scrimmage, he hasn't got a whole lot of playing time in the first 2 games. But even when Carter Murphy was dribbling, I wasn't too upset with it. He didn't dribble a whole lot. But even with he weren't upset with the mistakes if there were any. Didn't have a lot of playing time tonight. I don't know how this rotation will go out because it's in 2 games, but that's another thing I gotta say. The rotation is much deeper than we've seen with Pastner teams. Pastner left it pretty much with 7 players a game, unless players got in foul trouble or got hurt. And even near the end of the stretch of the season last year, we strictly pretty much ran 5, maybe run Jalen Moore for 4 minutes a game, give Javon Franklin a rest. But now we're seeing a much deeper roster, and whether that's to Stoudemire bringing in a great transfer class or just have a bunch of talented guys staying or transferred in, it's a breath of fresh air. There's so many guys you can. It's just you got to put the lineup together. Obviously, we saw issues with that tonight, where there's only the only ball handler in the game was Kyle Sturdivant, and you had who was in you had Ibrahim Asako, you had Tafara Gapare, you had Carter Murphy. Not guys who are going to handle the ball. They're not bad with the ball in their hand, but they're not the guys you want with the ball in your hand.
And as good as Carter Murphy looked in the scrimmage the other night, he was not good tonight. Yeah, I think he made a foul on the defensive end, and he let a guy blow past him once or twice as well.
Yeah.
Just didn't look good. I don't know much about him, but I think just about anything you can squeeze out of him, you'll take.
Yeah.
He's probably the last guy in our rotation.
I'd say so. Looking at this, the transfer I'd say is the most intriguing, and I don't know whether Stoudemire will unlock his full potential, because you can see the potential is there. Is Tafara Gapare? You see that potential is there, especially on the defensive end. In the Southern game, he had 3 block shots, I believe, but his length on defense is really good. It's just the offense is yet to be unlocked. The offense is clearly not there. He's a starter the past 2 games, but has gotten about 12 minutes a game. The potential is clearly there. It's just, can he piece it all together? And is Stoudemire the right coach to piece it all together for him specifically?
No, he's really raw offensively, but the defensive tools are definitely there. He looks a lot like John Isaac to me. A guy that, if he ever puts the offensive game together, he's going to be a really, really good player for a really long time. But it's a big if.
Yes.
And with Isaac, he hasn't been healthy either, but that's a different story. But I think he's got the potential to be like a really, really good defender in the ACC. But we just have to see, can he stay out of foul trouble long enough to do that? Can he not be an offensive liability is what it comes down to for me.
Yeah, because even in tonight's game, we saw that they just kind of left him open. He was 0 for 2, both being from threes, only got the 9 minutes tonight, and part of that was the foul issues in the first half and the rocking with the lineup in the second half. But yeah, it's, as you said, it's very clear that the defense is there, and he's a guy that, yes, on offense, he might be a little bit of a liability currently, whether that's in the future, who knows. But defensively, I see why Stoudemire is starting him, because just the athleticism and the defensive tools, just they're all there. Even when he was at UMass, he was getting, I think it was 8 minutes a game or less. He was, in his per 40 stats, he was averaging like 2, 3, 4 blocks a game. And those type of guys, that's just, sometimes defense you just can't teach. And it's important to have defenders out there. And Stoudemire even said he wants to bring guys who want to play defense. And I think it's shown in the transfers. It's like, yes, he got a lot of offensive transfers, but all those guys can flat out play defense.
Yeah, but the thing for me is if Tyjon Claude is going to be as good as he's been the last two games, there's no room for Kapari to play.
No, absolutely not.
Stoudemire's system, from what we've seen the first 2 games, you can't have 2 guys that can't shoot the ball in the court at the same time. You just can't.
Yeah.
So he's going to have to figure out his offensive game if he wants to play.
Yes.
Because right now it feels like you got your choice between the 2 of them. I feel like they're similar players right now, but Tyjon Claude is just more consistent.
Yeah. And part of that is experience. Tyjon, I believe, is a 5th-year senior who's played at 2 different schools. Obviously, Western Carolina last year, where he had pretty solid stats and was enough to transfer to a big school. But I use big in air quotes, Georgia Tech. It's been in a little bit of a downhill spell. But
it's an ACC school.
It's an ACC school. You're moving from Western Carolina, who wasn't a fantastic team last year, to Georgia Tech, who also wasn't fantastic last year, but you're moving to the ACC, you're moving to the Power 5. You are moving to much bigger basketball. Which is complete opposite of what Stoudemire has said, because he said he'd rather build his. I don't know the exact article or the exact quote, but I'm pretty sure he said he wants to build his starters from recruiting, and that we've kind of seen that with the first recruiting class, as a guy that's apparently been said around the program by Ndogo that he might potentially be a starting center, but with as good as Tyjon Claude is playing, you can't keep him off the floor right now, whether Baye Ndogo is supposedly better or not. And Tyjon Claude, obviously, a guy that I absolutely love and have said praised him all summer, that he's going to be a guy who's like Javon Franklin for us last year, who just has a nose for the ball and a little bit more sound offensively, a little bit more controlled offensively, and and I like when they play it through the middle with him in both games. It creates a lot more on the outside. He's a phenomenal passer, way better than you would think out of the center position. But so we're gonna head straight into the Georgia Southern game, which was the first game that was on the docket for Georgia Tech. Game was close for most of the game up until about, I'd say, about 7-8 minutes left, possibly, where Georgia Tech just kind of were hitting their threes. So you were at the game. I obviously was not, but I did get to watch it. From being in the stadium, what was your feel with the game as it went throughout?
I think they were really tight to begin with. They just didn't have their legs under them offensively in that first half. First half, they shot 33% from the field, which is not good. They shot 10 for 30. I felt like they turned the ball over a lot in the first half. Southern's defense really surprised me. I thought they were really solid defensively. Pretty much whenever the ball got onto the wing or onto a corner, they were trapping and forcing Georgia Tech to make a cross-court pass that they didn't want to make.
Yeah.
That game, Tech had 19 turnovers compared to Georgia Southern's 11, which I think speaks a lot about Tech, that they lost the turnover battle by 8. No, excuse me. I'm sorry. I messed that one up.
That's points from. Yes, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, that's points from. Either way, Tech turned the ball over a lot, I felt like.
It was they had 11 turnovers in the first half, if my memory serves me correctly, and they finished with 13.
Yeah, they turned the ball over 11. I'll go with you, but they turned the ball over a lot in that first half. I think they were tight. They didn't know what to expect out of Southern, because Southern has a new head basketball coach too, so there's not a lot to scout there.
Yes. And I will say, like, on the broadcast, because I had that different version of it, so he is a guy with former NBA assistant coaching experience as well. He also has a former NBA player on his coaching staff. I don't know if you knew that, Maurice Spates. But so
really?
Yeah, he's on their coaching staff.
No way.
But so you have experience with that. They're a very well coached group, and from the people I've talked to within the Southern program, their recruits are really good. They were missing their starting point guard that game, which could have changed a whole lot of things. It could have not. Who knows? But the biggest guy that surprised me, knowing from Southern last year, because I did watch a little bit of Southern, because I'll give him his flowers. Carlos Curry. He was a big man. He was 2 for 2 from 3 last year. All of last year, he was 0 of 2 from 3. Worked on that over the summer. Jamar Franklin was a transfer from South Alabama. He had a really good night, whether his plus minus showed it or not. He had 17 points. They for that whole stretch, it, like, for the most part, I'll say this, for the entire game, it does not feel like we won by 20. The box score tells a very different, or the box score tells a very different story from what actually happened in the game, because it was just that one stretch in the second half where we forced turnovers. We didn't give a whole lot of turnovers, and the ball movement was just flowing. And when it got to Miles Kelly, he just shot lights out.
No, and that's what you need a guy like Kelly to do for this team. I don't think anyone's going to argue that Miles Kelly, if this team wants to succeed, Miles Kelly has to be, an all-ACC type player, an all-American level player. And even tonight against Howard, he didn't shoot the ball well, but down the stretch, you saw the ball in Kelly's hands, made a big three with about a minute and a half, 2 minutes left to give Tech the lead there at the very end. And you're going to need Miles Kelly to be the best player on this team if this team's going to have any of the success that they want to have going forward.
Oh, I 100% agree. It was obvious. It's like, because we'll say this, with the NBA style, when the game is getting close and it's getting dicey, you give the ball to your best player, and I think Stoudemire understands that, and he understands Kelly as his best player. Kelly was Tech's best player last year. What his scoring average is, 20, it's about 26 right now, because he had 27 tonight, 25 the first game. And part of that, and it's the thing is, I will say, is comparatively in the two games, the play style was completely different. Absolutely completely different. And part of that was attacking where the weakness is, but we can say that with Pastner, we knew exactly what the game plan was going to be every single time, and this game was different. That between the first and second game, it's a completely different play style. Between the two games, we shot 11 less threes tonight against Howard, and we made 9 less threes against Howard. And part of that was just shooting poorly. Some of that was just was not great shots. But honestly, the Southern game, Southern is a much better team than their record shows, obviously, and they got some great players, whether in the transfer portal or players that are returning. Player that surprised me that the name you'll recognize, but you don't really know much about him, is Colin Cole. He is a true freshman for them, and he was the skinny white kid that just kind of came in for like 20 minutes, and he would get rebounds for them, if you remember him in the game. But
I don't. But
okay,
that's something that really encourages me about Stoudemire, is that it looks like you are going to get different looks from him. Where with Pastner, you knew what you were getting, for better or for worse, right? I liked Pastner. I enjoyed watching. I enjoyed watching that team play, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But that doesn't,
You can love your team with not liking the results or the flaws.
There are obvious flaws in that team, right?
The biggest flaw, obviously, was if the team wasn't doing well defensively, you're not winning that game. And it's like tonight, the defense wasn't fantastic, but it came down to a stretch, and the defense played well. And that's pretty much what won us the game when we got down, 12 or 14 points. I have to look at the sheet. But then we chipped it away just by getting some stops here and there. And by the end of the game, obviously, we take out a win, much closer than it needed to be. But Howard is a good team.
Howard's a very good team.
We'll move over to the Howard. We'll move over to the Howard game. But yes, Howard is a very good team. They won the MEAC last year, and they're projected to do the exact same this year. Their team is a mix of young and old, and their young players are very good. Their old players are very experienced. So what was your opinion on this Howard game?
Howard's a really good basketball team. They made the tournament last year. They're projected to do so again this year. And they played really tough. They rebounded the ball really well, I thought. They got on the floor for loose balls. They did all the dirty things that, quite frankly, in the first half and even to start the second half, Tech just wasn't doing. I thought they were better than Tech through the first,
I'd say 35. I'd say
half hour of that game.
Yeah. And I will say, he's not going to pop up in the stat sheet, at least for this game. Biggest difference maker was Debo Coleman. Just the plays that he made in that stretch where we were chipping back. He only had 7 points, the 4 rebounds. He did have 3 fouls. We know you're not going to get a lot of assists from Debo. He's just kind of, in terms of offensive, he's the Michael Porter Jr. type. But in the terms of if he has an open shot, he's going to shoot it. He's not going to shoot the contested stuff. But you're not going to get many assists from him. Defensively, he looks much, much better. He looks like his freshman year Debo and not last year Debo. Debo last year, you weren't worried with him, but you weren't okay, I love having him on the floor. Tonight, you felt like you needed him on the floor.
Absolutely. I thought their best lineup tonight was when they had, down the stretch, they pretty much had 6 guys they played, and I thought it was Sturdivant, Kelly, Reeves, Coleman, and Claude. I think those were the 5 right there. That's going to win you ball games down the stretch.
Yeah, and it's whether that's the starting 5 or not, that is the best 5, and sometimes
whether it's the starting 5 or not, it should be the closing 5.
Yes, it should be the closing 5. You want to mix in that rotation, give some guys a break. But looking at this, it's Kyle Sturdivant had 11 tonight. Kawasi Reeves had 15, shooting 60%. His shot is getting better. Miles Kelly, the 27 points. The biggest issue for tonight, whether it shows up in the box score, it does show up in the box score, but it's the free throws and the players that missed the most free throws to me, even though it's not a whole lot. I mean, Miles Kelly missed 5. He also shot 13. But you had Kawasi Reeves that missed 1. You had Amari Abram who missed 1. Debo missed one. Ibrahim Asako missed one. Tyjon missed two. It was just all of them here and there. That's 11 points left at the line. In the first game against Southern, we left how many? We left six. Or no, that's 16. We left 10 points at the line. And part of that is the switch from Pastner to Stoudemire. Pastner was a guy that's kind of because of how his coach at Arizona was. It's kind of you shoot free throws on your own time. You're responsible for your free throws, which I don't agree with in terms of college coaching. You need to have free throws. Free throws are going to win you games. Stoudemire, I believe he's done a little bit more with the free throws because it looks better than last year, which isn't saying a whole lot in terms of free throw shooting. But I think that's something that gets cleaned up, especially after tonight with pretty much a close game. You need to be hitting free throws.
No, absolutely. I mean, they look when they're playing ACC teams, you're not going to get away with leaving 11 points at the line. You're just not.
No.
And it's something that needs to get cleaned up. I think we were lucky tonight that free throw shooting did not come back to bite us because, if you're playing a really good ACC team, if you're playing, a North Carolina, which is a really experienced team this year, if you're playing Virginia, who's always really good, you're not going to get away with stuff like that. So it's something that definitely needs to get cleaned up in the future. But that being said, if Tech plays with the same effort level, I see absolutely no reason they can't hang around in the ACC this year.
Yeah. And it's like, if you think, like, we score, yes, it's a Howard team. Like, it's a little bit, not necessarily on the same skill level as some ACC teams. But if you're looking at it, we shot overall for the game 44% of the field, which isn't awful, but it's not great. And we shot 22% from 3 on 4 of 18. We shot 59% from the line with 27 free throw attempts. And we still scored 88 points. That says a whole lot about the scoring prowess because of how much we're rebounding. Total rebounds, we had 43 total rebounds, and 22 of them were offensive rebounds.
Yeah, and offensive rebounding I thought was awesome tonight, which is part of the reason that Tech was able to win the game while only shooting 44% from the field. When you're giving yourself second chance opportunities, and it wasn't just one guy rebounding the ball offensively.
No, it's really spread out.
Claude had 3 offensive rebounds. Kelly had 4. Reeves had 3. Amari Abram had 2. Sturdivant had 1. Coleman had 1. And even Ebenezer Dewanya had 1 as well. So it's a gang effort rebounding the ball, which I really like to see. It's refreshing.
Yeah, and it's like even in the first game, looking back at it, in the Southern game, we still had 15 team offensive rebounds. Tyjon did have 5 of them, but even so, you had Dewanya who had 3 offensive rebounds in just 8 minutes. Sacco had 2 offensive rebounds. Kelly had 2 offensive rebounds. Kapare had 1. Kawasi had 1. The offensive rebounding is significantly better than a year before. Part of that due to scheme with how Pastner had it, where he'd have pretty much every single guy get back on defense and set up on defense, and these guys are willing to go in and try to get the offensive rebound, whether that hurts us in transition or not. You have the willingness to rebound, and you're getting more offensive rebounds, which leads to more points. Because, yes, you're shooting bad, but you're getting your shots back, and you have more opportunities to score. So part of the shooting percentage, yes, it's down and we're missing, but we're getting the second chance opportunities. And let's see, if there's a second chance opportunities, just kind of see second chance points. We had 16. Yeah, we had 16 tonight, and 50 points in the paint, which is a complete opposite, I feel like, of the first game. But it was very clear what the game plan was, which was attack the basket against this Howard team. They had some really good perimeter defenders, and that caused us issues. But attacking the inside, even with their bigs being as sound as they were, got them into foul trouble. It was obvious what the game plan was pretty much from the start, whether you think they're going to shoot a whole lot of threes or not. The game plan from the start was figure out a way to get the ball to your guys inside and get to their spots. We saw that with Sturdivant, who's had his mid-range pull-up for as long as we can remember. He's played at Tech. Kelly was starting to get inside, especially near the end of the game, drawing fouls, getting layups. Tyjon, especially at the end, with just a pretty move to basically seal the game. The point was clear, just attack the paint. And with Claude going back on the passing ability from the beginning, his 3 assists were beautiful, just off this exact same play.
Yeah.
just put him pretty much at the 3-point line. They know they're not going to defend him at the 3-point line, and just fitting it in perfectly into this little lane for a layup that resulted in like a foul or two. So they got an extra chance at points, and the finishing.
And let me give a lot of credit to Howard. They looked really, really good tonight. Their
Well, they
bigs,
did.
I thought, were really, really good. Very, very physical bigs. Weren't afraid to play old school basketball. Uh, I thought they were awesome. Really good screeners, good rebounders.
Oh, their screens were tough. We couldn't get around them for most of the part.
No, they gave Tech a really, really hard time tonight, and that's what an experienced team will do. They're a really good team. They were a tournament team last year for a reason, and they're going to be one this year because they're really, really good.
Yeah.
So I think it's a great win for Tech.
It's a tough, especially in the beginning of the season.
Differently.
Yeah. No, go ahead. Yeah.
No, but I was really excited to see that they won the game in two different ways. It excites me, with Pastner. Even though Tech shot the ball really well from 3 last year, the offense wasn't. I mean, if the defense wasn't there, you weren't gonna win.
No, and it was also with Pastner. He played down to his competition. If you thought they weren't a great team, like even whether he actually did it or not, it's always how it seemed that he played down to his competition, and every single game, no matter whether it was against a team that we were supposed to beat by 30 or a team in the ACC, every single game was close. And it shouldn't have been. And this year, it's like, to a casual fan, you look at Howard and it's like, oh my God, how did they not beat them? But to people who watch a lot of basketball, and I'm pretty sure even guys, especially a guy like on TikTok like Ryan Hammer, who talks a lot about these mid-majors, he would say Howard's a great team, and they're a physical team, and they know what they're doing. It's not a team that's super young, inexperienced, and play at a low level. They played in the tournament. They have this experience. Their rotation's a little short, and we got their bigs into foul trouble, which was part of the key to winning the game. Also, part of it was forcing turnovers. They had 14 turnovers to our 7. We didn't turn the ball over as much. Just it was the offensive efficiency. Another big thing I want to say that we have to clean up for the future games is the foul trouble. The fouls are very spread out, but 19 team fouls. Claude fouled out. Sturdivant had 3. Debo had 3. Gapare had 3 in only 9 minutes. And he had 3 all in the first half, I'm pretty sure. And Sacco, for as little as he played, had with the 12-13 minutes, had 2 fouls. It's the fouling. And a lot of them are dumb fouls. I wouldn't say a lot of them. A good bit of them are dumb fouls that you don't need to take. Or I'd say that's just something that's going to be cleaned up. If you also agree with that.
I think part of it tonight was the pace of the game. I mean, both Howard and Tech were trying to play fast, which is, something else that's refreshing. Pastner wanted to slow the game down, muck it up with his defense, and I saw several times tonight, just like you did, Stoudemire egging his guys on to push the tempo, especially even after a make. Push the ball down the court, make the other team scramble. And, if you're going to play 9-10 guys deep like he did tonight, you're going to have, you're going to be able to push the ball more.
Yeah.
I think a weakness with Pastner was, you knew you were only going to get 5, maybe 6 guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
But with this team, you're 9-10 deep, and you can afford to push the ball and, do things like that. So I don't think the foul trouble's an issue if the depth is going to play the way it should.
I agree, but it's the only issue that I have with the foul trouble is the dumb fouls, and if they're dumb fouls at the wrong time, then especially some of these key players, like, yes, Claude had the 5 fouls, but you had to sit him at the end of the first half because he had the 2 and you don't want to risk him. And it led to, like, yes, Gapare made some dumb things happen. That happens. He's young. He's raw. Things are going to happen. Same with Sacco. Sacco, I believe, is a true freshman that we just recruited. That there's going to be dumb decisions, like not dumb decisions, but just dumb mistakes that happen. That does happen, especially with young players. He
looked every bit like a true freshman.
Oh, he absolutely did.
He looked. There were times where he could not be out on the court.
Yeah.
Which, I hate to say it, it's going to happen. He's a true freshman. He made a play at the end of the game tonight that was
that he's probably going to get yelled at for, which almost tied up the game if it was a good opportunity. But even in still, you can see he has the tools. He's a strong small ball big. You see he has these tools. He is strong. If you get rid of some of the dumb fouls like he had against Southern with a foul and a 3-pointer, which he had no right basically fouling him on, you just contest it and get out of the way. Even tonight, he had some dumb mistakes, and he's a true freshman. But you love to see that it's the potential is obviously there, and he just has to get everything to click. He is a smart player. It's just about getting it to click, and it's going to take some time, and he might not get the minutes immediately, but as he builds the trust, he'll get it. And I think that Stoudemire will help pieces together. This entire team is brand new pretty much to each other. Besides, with Terry out, you have just Sturdivant, Coleman, and Kelly that have played together. Everybody else is brand new to each other. So piecing it all together is a huge thing.
It's going to be an adjustment period, and I think tonight was a really, really good test to see where they were at. And I'm really happy with how tonight turned out. Because, Tech was down 14 with, 17 minutes to go in this game. Tech, Howard's really good. I've said it a bunch of times today, but Howard's really, really good.
Yes.
And I think Tech did a good job adjusting throughout the game, and they really, really turned up the defensive intensity there in the second half. Forced a lot of turnovers in the second half, which is really good to see.
Yeah, and they turned up the intensity, and they did it piece by piece, and it's like you can't just win it all in one play, and that's obvious, and they're not trying to, which I love. My favorite quote with trying to do it piece by piece is how do you eat an elephant? You just got to eat it piece by piece, and piece by piece they Tech put this game back together, and when they were faced with adversity, they didn't get upset. They communicated with each other, and when something went wrong, even during all of that run, biggest thing that I saw is there was a miscommunication with a foul or something. Someone got a foul because they're out of place, and Kowacy Reeves is just like, it's okay, like, come on, just let's talk about it, like in that small little huddle. It's like get through these mistakes. We understand we're all making mistakes. Let's just build through it and let's win for this school. And I think that's a huge difference maker. Is there, like, right now the obvious leaders on the team are the older guys. It's going to be Claude. It's going to be Kelly. It's going to be Sturdivant, especially Kelly and Sturdivant because they've been here for so long. But you have those two leaders, and this team seems like they have really, really good chemistry off the court. And on the court, it's being built. Because you didn't see it before the game, but I saw it. Terry is out, and they're just all having fun with Terry. And they're a whole team, and I think part of that is the culture. Is they were all friends, and they would laugh about stuff. But if stuff got serious, they kind of got down on themselves in previous years. And tonight, there was all the point where you could just be down, and you're like, shoot, we're going to lose to Howard.
If you're Tech, you had... Previous Tech teams would have given up.
Oh, 100%.
They would not have made it tonight. And I think that's a credit to what Stoudemire's done in his short time. He's instilled belief in these players that, look, we may not be the most talented team in the world, but if they play together, they can win some games in the ACC, I think.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of time. Yeah. I think Stoudemire's going to do the right thing with this program. And I am beyond excited to see what the future holds.
Yeah, and we're drinking
drinking the Kool-Aid.
We're drinking the theoretical Damon Stoudemire Kool-Aid. He's saying all the right things, and it's not like it was honestly with Collins when he would say all the right things and then it just didn't turn out from how it seemed so far. Collins, even in the beginning of his tenure, said, oh, they're working really hard, piecing it together, and it's like this team will come with time. Stoudemire isn't saying this team will come with time. He said that they're talented, but he's kind of like, okay, we'll show everybody what we can do. Rather, like what Brent Key is doing with the football program. It's not about telling us what's happening with the program and saying that there's progress. It's showing that there's progress. And I think that's such a breath of fresh air, especially with with football and basketball, especially in the post-game interviews, which I didn't mind Pastner's as much, but you knew exactly what they were going to say. Every single press conference. With Pastner, it was every day is a tough day in the ACC. That coach is a really great coach. They have a great program over there at whatever school it is, no matter what the opponent was. And with Collins, it was, oh, that's a really great team over there. But these kids fought hard. It's the same thing. Key, he's a man of few words, which are my favorite type of coaches.
Hard.
It's
the kids worked hard. Go Jackets.
Yeah, pretty much. And like Damon Stoudemire has a little bit more because of being in that professional experience. He says a little bit more, but in terms of the overall, he's not saying expect great things. He's saying we'll show you great things, pretty much.
Yeah.
And it's just such a breath of fresh air, especially in this program. And I think that J-Bat is doing everything right now. He's taken the tools that obviously you build a winning culture over at Alabama. He was especially part of their basketball rise because the athletic director kind of put the basketball team in J-Bat's hands. So J-Bat is taking the steps to make this basketball program better. And we just gotta see more fans at these games. I understand it's Howard, but the fans will come with success, which is, it's unfortunate because there should be more fans at this team. This team is going to be really fun to watch for this year, especially. So if you're listening to this and you can come out to Georgia Tech basketball games, we will be at as many games as we can. We go to as many as we can. It's just colliding our schedules. Also, if you listen to these and you go to Tech games, come say what's up to us. We always love to talk Tech basketball. We are the first row behind the student section. Come say what's up. We're always willing to talk Tech basketball. If you have questions for us during the games or whatever, feel free to reach out. I'm going to link certain social medias in the description of this once it's posted on YouTube. Just come say hi. We'd love to talk Tech basketball. In other words, overall for the ACC, how do you think we're going to do? Most projections have us finishing second or third to last in the ACC, and I think that's just more of nobody knows what to expect. In football, we were projected to finish third to last as well, and obviously we're in third place in the ACC. So in terms of the ACC finish, how do you think we're going to do?
No, I'd love to finish in the top half of the league. You know, I'm not going to go crazy and say we can win the ACC this year, which would be awesome if we won the ACC
it'd be incredible.
It'd be incredible if we won the ACC. But, you know, it's wrong to expect that.
Yes.
It is.
Especially in the first year of
Absolutely.
Stoudemire.
I think this team can make some noise. They're really talented, as we've seen the last several nights.
Yeah.
But it's just a matter of if and when it all comes together.
Yeah, because obviously Duke had a really good team last year, and they kept a lot of the core, and they got better this year with their recruiting class. You keep Kyle Filipowski, you get this top recruiting class with Jared McCain, who, yes, he is a TikTok boy, but he is a stud, especially at the point guard position. You bring in that recruiting class. Miami's going to be really good. Our favorite player, who arguably was, or not, our favorite player is in air quotes, but a really talented player for Miami, and Nigel Pack is back for them. And he was arguably their most important player last year, whether you want to say it's Isaiah Wong or not. Nigel Pack could explode that offense in an instant.
Nigel Pack can flat out shoot, man.
Yeah.
And I am not looking forward to having to see him here.
No, I am not either. And then you got like Virginia, obviously, it's a Pastner style of get old, you stay old.
Get old, stay old. Yep.
You get old, stay old. You know they're going to have great defense. Their offense is going to be okay every year, but their defense is top-notch every single year. Wake Forest is going to be a program that surprises people this year. Last year they surprised some people. Let's see. Let's look up these ACC predictions specifically for basketball, and we'll go through it. Basketball. Alrighty. ACC basketball predictions. So Duke is the projected winner, and I'm not quite shocked by that. Clemson, they think, is going to have a good team. I think they lost quite a few of their great players to be as good as people think they're going to be. I think it's just more based off of last year. North Carolina is going to be solid, I believe. Granted, I thought they were basically going to go back to the Final Four last year coming into the season, and there was obvious struggles with that.
And you know, I believe Carolina has, if I'm not mistaken, Armando Bacot is back for Carolina.
Yes, he is back.
And, you know, I feel like...
And RJ Davis.
And I feel like both of them have
been in the ACC for about 12 years now.
Yeah,
but
you feel like it. And then they added another guy from the ACC, from Notre Dame, Cormac Ryan, apparently. So that's a huge key piece for
Yeah.
them too. Cormac was really, really good for them. Um, oh, I didn't even realize this. I'm looking at these predictions. Miami also got Matthew Cleveland from Florida State. That's huge for
man.
them too. They got
he's a good
good
ball player.
because they
Yeah.
kept Norchad Omier, Nigel Pack, and then they got Matthew Cleveland. That's really, really good. Yeah, Virginia obviously is going to be good. Wake Forest, they pretty much kept their team. And they got a transfer from Gonzaga, which it's Gonzaga. That's a good transfer. And other than that, I think Pittsburgh is going to surprise some people as well. They surprised some people last year. My favorite player with my favorite name of all time, Federico. But they got a good team. They were a little old last year. I think Syracuse struggles this year. Louisville obviously struggles this year. Notre Dame with a new hire and basically new players, they're going to struggle this year. Georgia Tech, I just think, has a little bit more experience than these teams that are predicted lower in the ACC, so I think they finish about middle of the pack. They could make some noise, who knows, but I think it's wrong to expect anything more than basically like a 7th or 8th finish in the ACC, I'd say.
Tech could finish anywhere from last in the conference to fourth, and I wouldn't be shocked.
Obviously, I'd like it to be on the higher end of that, but
Yeah, exactly.
if you come to me in April and tell me Tech was, fourth in the conference, I'd be over the moon.
You'd be over the moon, but you wouldn't be as shocked. That's the...
No, I wouldn't be shocked. I think maybe I'm just drinking the Kool-Aid. Maybe I'm being a homer, but I think they can be really good.
I think that they have the potential to be really good, and they have the potential to finish where they are predicted to finish. And it's just, how does this team click as the season progresses? I think the non-conference schedule favors us a little bit. It sucks that we have to play Duke as early as we have to, and it's our first ACC game, and I believe it's at Duke, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but it sucks that we do get a game against Penn State in Madison Square Garden. Penn State lost 2 key players to the draft last year, so they're not as good as they were last year. I loved watching Penn State. I watch way too much college basketball for my health. Penn State was one of my teams that I like to watch, and obviously you and I bet on a lot of different college basketball players. Penn State was one of my favorite teams to bet on, but in terms of what's it called? In terms of just the non-conference schedule, I think it favors us more than people realize, especially the tournament that we have in Hawaii. There's not a whole lot of great teams in there, if I'm not mistaken. The Hawaii, and the thing is, we get guaranteed 3 games there. It's just, who do we play? GT basketball.
Cincinnati's a team we can beat. I'll be at the game in Cincinnati.
Yeah, I don't think they're not as good as their football team.
But it's a team that can make some noise, and with a little bit of luck, I think this team can make the tournament. I'm not expecting it by any means. I'd be happy with an NIT bid. I think that'd be great.
Mm-hmm.
But if Stoudemire can take this team to the tournament in his first season, you sign him forever. You never let him go.
No, you unless he starts to really show that it's bad, you don't let him go. It's gonna be different. It's a different style, and obviously the first thing you and I noticed is there's a high ball screen. That's the biggest thing. We see a lot of on ball and off ball screens, which I love to see. As you know, I love off ball screens. I don't think there's enough of them, but it's a very different style, and it's gonna take some getting used to, and it's just different. That's the best thing, and it's nobody knows what to expect. And I heard guys behind us, it's in the seats, that were like, it doesn't seem like there's progression. There is progression from that first game to the second game, or the players from last year to this year. It's just, I think it's wrong to expect anything more than what we're saying. It's just kind of like middle of the pack, maybe an NIT bid. The ACC is a really good conference, and the thing is, their parity has gotten to be a lot smaller, I think is the right way to say it.
It's wrong to expect immediate results.
Yes.
It's not fair to anybody. It's not fair to yourself to expect immediate results as much as you'd like them. It's not fair to the player. It's not fair to the coaching staff.
Yeah. So the teams in this, it's called the Diamond Head Classic in Hawaii. It's Georgia Tech, Hawaii, Nevada, Old Dominion, St. Mary's, Temple, UMass, and TCU. The hardest one is TCU. Obviously, they have a pretty good program over there. But other
St.
than
Mary's is always really good.
St. Mary's is a good team as well. But you think of those teams, I think Nevada is pretty beatable. I think like they had a good season last year. Old Dominion is pretty beatable. It's all solid teams that had the finish of the season. But in terms of a classic, the only ones that are really truly, truly tough is St. Mary's and TCU. But with that being said, this season is going to be very interesting. To say the least. It's going to be an interesting season. And obviously the ACC is hard. I think we got a little bit easier schedule in terms of ACC play. We get Syracuse, we get Notre Dame, Louisville. That's all back to back to back. You get stuff like that. You guess you have to play North Carolina. We have to play Virginia twice. We play Clemson twice. We play Duke twice. Yes, we do play Duke twice. So the game December 2nd is at McCamish Pavilion on a Saturday. So that'll be fun. So yeah, any other notes we want to add on this first episode of Talkin' Tech Hoops Season 2? I'm going to take that as a no. With that being said, I'm gonna close this out. Thank you very much for listening or watching or whatever you're doing with this. If you want more Tech basketball content, we're going to attempt to post these every single week, talking about the games that happen throughout the week, what we're seeing within the program. So if any of that interests you, hit the like button, subscribe. This has been Talkin' Tech Hoops with Jujician and Thomas, and we're going to be out. We'll see you next week.